There is a black cat that often lingers at the edge of every story. It isn't the protagonist. It saves no one. It changes nothing. It simply watches in silence. Hello there, this is Wandering Cat. I watch films, then retell them in my own words, leaving space for your imagination to roam free. Have you ever wondered why we remember almost nothing from the first 3 years of our lives? In Japan, there is a beautiful belief. People say that until a child is 3 years old, they are a guest from the gods. They call them Okosama, children of the heavens. At this age, a child is like a quiet vessel. They are silent and unconscious. They have no feelings, no reflexes, and no memories. Only on their 3rd birthday do they lose this magic and truly join the human world. This is the strange and wonderful story of a little girl named Amélie and her journey to become a person. The story begins with a doctor examining a baby named Amélie. After checking her eyes, ears, and touch, the doctor says Amélie is in a vegetative state. She does not move or react. Most parents would feel deep sadness, but Amélie's parents were different. They were very positive people. They thought a quiet baby was a gift, especially because Amélie's older brother and sister were very loud and naughty. For a long time, the family tried everything to make her react. They played music and tried to make her laugh, but Amélie did not move. The interesting thing was that Amélie was not sick. She was doing it on purpose. In her tiny mind, she believed that by staying silent, she remained a god to everyone around her. Time passed. On her 2nd birthday, while the family was celebrating, an earthquake shook the house. This sudden shaking woke Amélie up. She began to move her arms and legs. She started to walk and make her first baby noises. Her family was very happy and laughed with joy. But Amélie felt helpless. She was angry because she could only make meaningless sounds instead of the big thoughts in her head. She screamed and cried for many days. The family became very tired. They did not know why she was so unhappy. They were also worried about their neighbor, Mrs. Kachima. In Japan, it is very important to be quiet and polite to others. Finally, her father, Patrick, decided to hire a nanny. The nanny was named Nishio. On the day she arrived, Grandma Claude also came to visit from Belgium. She brought a special gift, white chocolate. At first, Amélie was afraid and tried to bite her grandmother's finger. But when she tasted the chocolate, something like magic happened. Amélie became calm and lay quietly in her grandmother's arms. The family was shocked. The little devil had suddenly become a little angel. With her grandmother's help, Amélie began to run and play like a normal child. One quiet morning, Amélie's mother was using a vacuum cleaner. Amélie was curious and listened to the loud noise. "This is a vacuum cleaner," her mother said. Suddenly, Amélie looked at her mother and slowly said her very first words, "Vac-yum-clean-er." Her mother was so happy that she ran to tell Patrick. Patrick was excited, but when he heard her first word was vacuum cleaner, his face fell. "A vacuum cleaner?" he whispered, feeling a bit disappointed. Then her mother asked, "Can you say mama?" Amélie said, "Mama." When her father asked, she said, "Papa." Everyone cheered. Finally, her mother asked her to say her brother's name. Amélie stayed silent and closed her mouth tight because her brother always bullied her. Her mother comforted the boy, saying, "She only knows a few words, don't be sad." Suddenly, Amélie spoke a long sentence in a clear, proud voice. "No, I can say many things. I know how to talk." The house was silent for a second, and then everyone burst into laughter. The girl who was once as silent as a god was now showing everyone how well she could speak. Grandma Claude moved with emotion, picked her up and kissed her cheek. Amélie held her grandmother tightly and thought, "She is the only one who truly understands me." Soon, Grandma Claude had to go back to Belgium. Amélie was very sad. She thought her grandmother was only leaving for a short time, but her mother said, "It will be a long time before we see her again." Amélie felt helpless. She ran to the library, sat on the floor and cried. Nishio found Amélie there. She sat down next to her and opened a picture book about Japanese monsters, yokai. Nishio said softly, "Monsters live in quiet places. When someone is bad, the monsters appear. They shake the house and make heavy things fall on the person who did wrong." Amélie listened with wide eyes. She was afraid, but she was also interested. She imagined a monster looking through the door and forgot to cry. A new friendship began between them. Amélie became a good girl and stopped screaming. Nishio took Amélie to explore the garden behind the house. It was full of green trees and a shining pond. Amélie ran and laughed. Suddenly, she ran into their neighbor, Mrs. Kashima. The old woman looked at her with an angry face. One morning, Amélie saw her father and her brother flying a large kite. It was shaped like a koi fish. Patrick said, "The koi fish is a symbol for boys. May is the month of the koi." Amélie was curious. She asked many questions. Why is it May? Why is it a fish? When is the month for girls? Her father sighed and said, "I don't know." Her brother teased her, "You are just a baby. You only know how to ask why." Amélie thought this was not fair for girls. "I want to see a real koi," she shouted. Patrick promised that Nishio would take her. True to his word, Nishio took Amélie to a large pond near a temple. Nishio opened a box of fish food and threw it into the water. Dozens of fish came to eat. Amélie looked at their big eyes and wide mouths. She thought they were very ugly. "They are like my brother," she thought. She laughed to herself. She believed the Japanese were right to choose these silly fish to represent boys. Suddenly, it began to rain. Amélie looked up and felt the cool water on her face. Nishio said, "The Japanese word for rain is ame. It sounds just like your name." When they got home, Amélie asked Nishio to teach her how to write her name. They sat on the porch. Nishio breathed on the glass window until it was foggy. She held Amélie's hand, and they used their fingers to write the word ame in Japanese. Amélie's eyes shone with wonder. To her, her name in Japanese looked beautiful and magical. One quiet afternoon, Amélie saw her father on the phone. His voice was shaking. Then he began to cry. Amélie had never seen her father cry before. She went to him and asked, "Papa, why are you crying? Are you hurt?" Her mother held her tightly. Grandma is dead," she said softly. Amélie was too young to understand dead. She only felt a strange emptiness. That night, she asked Nishio, "What is dead?" Nishio waited for a moment, then she said, "When someone dies, they are not with us anymore." Then, because Amélie asked many times, Nishio told her a sad story. Nishio had lost her parents and her siblings during World War II. "Are you sad like my papa?" Amélie asked. "Yes, I am very sad," Nishio smiled sadly. "But time heals. The people we love stay in our hearts and show us how to live." Then she told Amélie about a special festival called Toro Nagashi, the festival of lanterns on the river to remember the dead. Patrick had to fly back to Belgium for 2 months. The summer in Japan was very peaceful. Amélie played with her brother and sister. Every morning she exercised with Nishio. She helped to water the plants, cook, and clean the house. In the afternoons, she sat on the porch, ate cold watermelon, and learned how to write. Nishio helped her make a small lantern for the festival. On the last day of the festival, Nishio took Amélie to the river. Under the dark sky, thousands of candles floated on the water. It was a river of light. Amélie held her lantern, said goodbye to her grandmother, and let it go. Her small light joined all the others and floated away. They also saw their neighbor, Mrs. Kashima, putting a lantern on the river. When Patrick came back, the family went to the beach. Amélie did not want to leave Nishio alone at home, but Nishio said, "I came to this beach when I was a child. It is very beautiful, Amélie. It is like the end of the world. You must go. I will wait for you here." On the beach, the waves made a soft sound. Amélie took an empty jar and opened it. She tried to catch some sea air inside. Then she closed the lid tightly. She smiled and thought, "Nishio will love this." While she was looking at the small sea creatures, a giant wave suddenly hit her. It pulled her into the deep, cold water. Amélie was terrified and struggled to breathe. Luckily, her brother, André, saw her. André, who used to bully her, jumped into the water and pulled her back to the beach. When Amélie woke up, she saw André holding her jar. He was crying because he was so afraid of losing her. At that moment, Amélie felt a new kind of love. "Thank you, André," she said softly. It was the first time she had ever called him by his name. The whole family hugged each other as the waves crashed behind them. When they got home, Amélie fell asleep in the car. Nishio carried her to bed. When the little girl woke up, she gave the jar to Nishio. "I caught some sea air for you," she said. Nishio opened the jar and took a deep breath. Suddenly, her own childhood memories came back. Days on the beach with her parents and siblings. Nishio cried and hugged Amélie. "Thank you, my dear," she whispered. Time passed. It was early morning on Amélie's third birthday. Everyone was asleep, but Amélie was awake. She looked out the window and saw Nishio walking quietly in the yard. She followed her. Nishio went to see their neighbor, Mrs. Kashima. Amélie hid behind a rock and listened. Mrs. Kashima was very angry. She shouted at Nishio, "How dare you bring foreigners to our river festival? It is an insult to our ancestors." She said that Nishio's love for Amélie was a betrayal of their country. "Have you forgotten what they did to us after the war? They took everything." Nishio answered quietly, "They had nothing to do with that. I helped them because I loved the little girl. The war ended 30 years ago. Her parents were only children then." Suddenly, Amélie slipped and fell. The two women saw her. Nishio quickly picked her up to take her home, but Mrs. Kashima continued to shout, "What about my husband, my son? What about your own parents?" She told Nishio that one day Amélie would grow up and forget her. "Your love for her is a shame," she said. Amélie's parents heard the noise and ran outside. Nishio looked very sad. She put Amélie down and whispered, "I am sorry, Amélie." Then she walked away, leaving Amélie alone. Amélie cried loudly, "It's all Mrs. Kashima's fault." Her mother comforted her. "They have suffered a lot, Amé. You are too small to understand, but this is not your fault." Amélie's third birthday was very sad because Nishio was gone. Amélie saw Nishio's shadow everywhere. Her father gave her 3 koi fish as a gift, But then he told her some news. The family would soon move back to Belgium. This made Amélie even sadder. One day, while she was feeding the fish, she thought, "Everything is my fault." She let herself fall into the deep pond. As she sank into the water, she saw a vision of her grandmother. "Your time is not finished," Grandma said. "The world is very big. Go and see it." Amélie replied sadly, "The world is too sad. Everything disappears." Grandma smiled. "No, my dear. Even if I am gone, I will live forever in your memories." Then Amélie saw a memory of Nishio at the window, teaching her how to write the word rain. Amélie woke up in the hospital. Her parents were so relieved. "You gave us a great fright, Amélie," they said. Then Nishio walked through the door. Her mother told her that Mrs. Kashima and Nishio were the ones who had saved her life. "Thank you for staying, Ame-chan," Nishio said. The two of them hugged and cried with happiness. Many years have passed, and Amélie is now an adult, but the memories of that winter, her family, Nishio, and even Mrs. Kashima are like a warm fire in her heart. Little Amélie, or The Character of Rain, is a beautiful and delicate story of a child's mind. Sometimes Amélie seems too old for a 3-year-old, and perhaps the scene at the pond is not very realistic. However, the film successfully opens the drawers of memory in our hearts. It reminds us of the siblings who fight but love each other deeply. It reminds us of a kind grandmother with her small gifts of love. And it reminds us of Nishio, a person who is not family by blood, but who loves us like a mother. The film tells us about loss, the pain of war, and how the people we love stay with us forever. The story ends with Amélie's words, "We do not need to be gods, being a normal human, to be loved, to feel pain and happiness with our eyes open wide. That is the most interesting thing in the world."